All right, here's episode 4. This is part 4 of 5 of the. I think it's called Tale of the Golden Sun. I don't remember. It's called Cold Duck. This episode starts with Huey, Dewey, and Louie making a totem with pots on their heads, and they crawl around like babies with them under their favorite tapestry of Uncle Scrooge. Webby draws a picture of the boys. Obviously, it looks like the work of a serial killer. Days before she kills everyone. Hugh, Dewey, and Louie, because they hate her, decide to play the old tuning fork prank. So they hit the tuning fork and put it in the keyhole, and the resulting vibrations cause the picture frame to explode, and a window, and a TV. Just blows everything up. Launchpad lands on a fountain, and Webby's upset because the boys don't ever want to play with her, so she decides to go see what they're doing in their room. They're not there. They've obviously been funny games because their room's torn apart and they're not nowhere to be found. She realizes that they're on the plane, so she jumps on, but then she's scared because she realizes Launchpad's in charge. So Mrs. Beasley gets this pool furniture and springboards onto the landing gear because she's over 60. Thought it'd be a good idea. She's got little pantaloons on and moxie. The Launchpad standing with his shoulder bone spurs. He looks like Morrow from the X-Men. So he finds out that Miss Beasley's on the landing gear, and she's obviously terrified because she's going to fall. Launchpad doesn't. He feels no remorse, so he decides to choke her to death with her scarf. So then they need to land in Antarctica. I wonder where they're going to land. It's probably the patch of discolored snow. Turns out I'm right. Launchpad uses his homing beacon to find Scrooge. It looks like a guitar pedal. Miss Beasley, luckily enough, could find a snowsuit that matched her color scheme, so I'm glad for her. Launchpad's like, he winted this away. He's got one of those bone spurs coming out of his head. All of a sudden, this penguin shows up. She happens to look exactly like Webby, but with a white bow. They look at each other for a while. Launchpad's so scared he levitates and his hair goes straight. Because this walrus comes. He's got murder on his mind. Walrus, the natural enemy of the penguin. Turns out he's pissed off about the scarf because walruses hate clothing. Scarves specifically. You can tell he hasn't shaved. He's a wreck. Huey and Dewey lasso his tusks, and they pull him off a cliff where he falls to his death, so they're safe. They find the mark of the golden sun and what they call Scrooge's sign, which is really a dollar sign. So they must get really confused when a check has their uncle's signature on it. Launchpad gets excited like a Texas oil baron. Decides it'd be a good idea to shoot his gun off in the air and inside of a cave. An icicle falls down and shatters the frozen lake they're on, so they surf on pieces of ice like Batman and Robin surfed on those doors in Batman and Robin. And then they get scared because the roof's low, so they hug the ice. They fall off. You don't know what happens to them. It's implied that they're dead. Penguin decides to talk and tell him what's going on, and they're shocked that she could talk, and the penguin says, of course I could talk, which is what I yelled at the same time. Of course she could talk. And they asked, why haven't you talked yet? She said, I'm not supposed to talk to strangers. Webby here with a doll that looks exactly like her, which would scare me if I met someone that had a doll that looked exactly like them, because you're supposed to... Never mind. Penguin explains that in her world, they love color because everything in their world is white and there's no color and everything's the same, so it's obviously like an allegory for race. So anyway, here's their world. They've built like a road system. They have a government in place. Penguins get jealous of the boys' clothes, so they jump them, float in the air. In this show, penguins can fly. They beat them up. They steal their clothes. There's a little dandy penguin with a top hat. Launchpad decides to do his best impression of Mickey Rooney from Breakfast at Tiffany's. Penguin tries to outdo him. He thinks he could do it better. He does. So they flatten Louie in a prison. Launchpad thinks it's a good idea to jump crotch first with the camera. Kid show. Penguins use a kinked hose to spray water into the air, and the water doesn't freeze in the hose, but it freezes to make bars. Boys find Scrooge. He's been in solitary confinement for months, so he's obviously just gone mad. You could tell he's just in a dark place, sitting with no pants on. They show his giant walrus and say that he tried to eat everybody, but they froze him. He's going to come into play later. They try to hide Webby, so they put her in penguin face by putting all this penguin makeup on her. So here she is in penguin face. And then the penguin says, here, put my winter coat on, because the penguin wears a coat. It's coincidentally enough, it's a tuxedo jacket. So then Webby's in total penguin face. Penguin's mom shows up. She's got hair rollers in her hair, even though she doesn't have hair. I guess to the Ducktales people, that's what a woman normally looks like. Just a fat person with curlers. Webby puts her hands on her face and says, "Grammy, Grammy." She honestly does. That's not me making an Al Jolson joke. But it's too late. Grammy's dead. She froze to death in the closet. So the penguins decide to evade this penguin cop. He's got a belt with a billy club. It's revealed that everything cooled. The penguins freeze because that's what they do with stuff they love. The map is there that Scrooge has been looking for. So Miss Beaksley goes to the prison, gives the boys the old tuning fork. They use the vibrations of the tuning fork to shatter the walls of the prison. We all know that tuning forks can do this, so it's realistic. Huey, Dewey, or Louie, whichever one's in green, uses the tuning fork again and unfortunately has a seizure, but no one else seems to really mind. The resulting shock from the tuning fork causes the walrus to break loose. Penguins show up with these tanks that have hands and throw snowballs. They pose no threat whatsoever. So the boys get knocked down by the snowballs. Scrooge just looks blasé. Walrus decides to eat them. These penguins are mad because of Webby's penguin face. So they show up here. You can see them saying penguin power, and they got their fists in the air. Walrus chases them to the edge of a hill, but good luck. Here comes Launchpad with the ship. And he catches them all, but he also catches the walrus. So, of course, they dump the walrus out of the back of the plane, and the walrus falls slowly to his death. As the second walrus they've murdered. Here's a shot of Miss Beaksley. She obviously she's got to have like type 2 diabetes. Her eyes don't work very well. Her face is disappearing into her gullet. Is that what it's called? Whatever the fat part is under her chin. Webby rips the head off her doll and says, "Hey, look, I drew with my crayons," or as they call it, the penguin called them color sticks, an exact replica of the map that Scrooge was looking for. So they can go find the treasure. So they give the penguin the color sticks and toss her out of the back of the plane. She falls to her death. And then it says to be continued because they're going to go find the treasure. And folks, I cannot wait for them to find this treasure. I can tell you. Honestly. Good night. God